Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to my channel. Now today I've been in the office, it's my one day of the week that I have to go in, and I overheard a conversation happening between a few of the guys, and it was all surrounding how hard it is to buy a house these days. And I completely agree. House prices are crazy high, interest rates are, as high as they've been for a long time. And everything else is so crazily expensive as well. So trying to have spare money at the end of the month to save to buy a house is without a doubt difficult. But it amazed me with these guys that are talking, they don't see how they are handicapping themselves in the process of saving for a house. And, they don't see that. But from my outsider's point of view, they are. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The guys were basically saying, and they all unanimously agreed, that they don't have very much money left over at the end of each month. And yeah, I agree, not many people do, but these guys live at home with their parents. It's probably the point in their lives where they probably should have the most spare money that they'll ever have in their life, is living at home with your parents. You might have a few bills to pay or whatnot, small ones, but you don't have a mortgage, you don't have utility bills and all these different things. But this is the problem. These guys, and I'm sure there are many people that do this, have used that spare money that they have to create, big bills for themselves in the form of high car payments, high phone payments, gadgets on finance, such as an Apple Watch, a PlayStation 5, and all these different things. But it was the car one that stood out to me the most. And the reason why is because the two of them, two out of the three that we're talking, have just recently taken out brand new finance agreements on brand new cars. One has bought a Tesla Model 3 and the other has bought a Tesla Model Y. And I've got nothing against those cars. They are fantastic cars. And I can see why they'd want one. But at the same time, these guys really can't afford these cars. Now, I know cash flow wise, on a monthly basis, they see the money in their account and they think, I can afford that. And they go and sign up to these leases and whatnot. But then at the same time, they say they don't have spare money to save for a house. And in a sense, they're right, they don't. At the end of the month, after their car payment and everything else is going up, they don't have spare money. But that is a choice. It is a choice not to have spare money to save for a house. They are choosing to spend that money on new clothes, cars, you name it. And like I say, that is a choice. And a lot of people don't seem to realise that these days, that all these things that you sign up for voluntarily, they're a choice, and they are stopping you doing these bigger things that you want to do and you need to do, but ultimately you can't do because you don't have the spare money. But these guys, they don't see it, and they think that having a nice car is something they need to have. They need to keep up with their friends and all these different things, these kind of social pressures that they inflict on themselves. And the crazy thing was, they were even talking about the prices they were paying for these cars. Now, one of them said it cost him £750 a month, and the other one I think was about £780 a month. So they were more or less the same. And I said to them, I can't believe they're willing to pay that much for a car per month. But this was the best bit. They said, oh, it's not that bad, Jacob. It's not £780 really, because we do it through a salary sacrifice scheme. So by the time I've saved the tax and all the rest of it, I'm actually only paying about £500 a month. So that is the way they kind of sold it to themselves, as well as selling it to me, that it's actually a great deal, throwing the insurance and things like that. And they were like, oh, it's the best deal you can get. It beats every other finance agreement out there. Now, that may be true, but you're still paying £500 a month for a car. Let's be honest, you don't need to be paying that much for a car. You could easily buy a beat up car that costs you a couple of grand just to get to work and back. It does the job. It's nothing fancy. It's not going to turn heads, but it does the job. And that £500 a month could be going into your house deposit savings. But Does that look good? No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound good to your friends to tell them, oh, I bought a beat up old car because I'm trying to save for a house. It's not impressive. It doesn't look good. And that's why they don't do it. But as long as they have that mentality, you're not going to be able to save for a house. And buying a house is always going to feel impossible. And that is a word that they said repeatedly today, that buying a house is impossible these days. And, like I said, while I agree it is difficult, and nobody is going to argue with that, but you're making it more difficult for yourself. You're handicapping yourself. These guys should be able to be saving 1,000 a month, maybe 1,500 a month. They're not badly paid people, and yet they still say they struggle to save anything at the end of the month. And it's baffling. But there is also in my office a young girl who is doing basically exactly what I would think you should do. And that is, she lives at home with her parents. She drives a really old car that she has no car payments on, really low insurance, low tax. She just drives to work and back in it, doesn't really go anywhere else. And she is saving all that money that those guys are spending. She is saving, and she is nearly at the point where she's going to be able to buy her own house. And these guys, they always say, I don't know how you've saved up all that money. You must be doing something else on the side. And actually, she's not. She is literally just being sensible. She's prioritised buying a house. That is her main goal. And that is what she's trying to achieve. And she's actually going to achieve it very shortly, because I had a discussion with her today, and she's very close to actually having the deposit she wants. And then subsequently, she will go out and look for a house that is within her budget. But it's crazy because she's the same age as these guys that were having the discussion today. And it just shows you that, same age, same job, same salary, and yet the mindset and the attitude and the priorities, because they're so vastly different, they're having two complete different outcomes in their life. And they basically have the same opportunities, but they're choosing to do different things with it. And I guess that's what I want to bring to you today. If you are somebody in this position, you might be in your late teens, early 20s, maybe even in your 30s, and you are looking to buy your first house. Ultimately, you have got to prioritize that over everything else. And I know that sounds harsh, and it sounds, like, oh, I've got to give up so many things. I've got to sacrifice so many things. But ultimately, in today's market, housing is incredibly expensive, especially in the UK. And depending where you are in the UK, it's worse than other areas. But ultimately, yes, you have got to sacrifice things, and you've got to prioritise the house over everything else, or else you might never achieve that goal. And it's not going to get any easier. That is the crazy thing. Housing, as much as we'd all like it to come down so more people can get on the ladder, the way our housing works, there's far more people that want a house than there are houses on the market. And as long as that is the case, housing prices aren't going anywhere. The cost of them is going to stay the same or probably keep increasing. And that means you've got to work even harder. So don't handicap yourselves like these guys, that I know are, buying all these fancy things. You've got the latest car, latest gadgets, you name it. But, they can't buy a house, and they are nowhere near buying a house. So as much as they want to make up the excuse of, it's impossible, everything's against me, I need to be paid more. The reality is, if they were paid more, they would just spend more. And you've got to get out of that cycle. Minimise your lifestyle right back to just the things you need, and prioritise the goals and the things that are going to get you to where you want to be. And if that is buying a house, then put everything into buying that house. And once you've got it, you can then start to put your money into other things. Maybe you want to treat yourself to a car, a holiday, things like that. But those things are luxuries, and ultimately they need to come after the main goal of buying a house. So I hope this just gives you a little bit of a wake-up call. If you're one of these people that kind of, maybe you think maybe you're a little bit like those guys, and you're spending a little bit more than you should be, Just try and have a look at your finances, see where you can cut back and see where you can redirect some of that money into maybe a house deposit or whatever else you're saving for. If you made it this far, guys, I just want to say thank you for watching. I know it was a bit of a rant, but I just had to get it off my chest today. On the way out, if you could like the video and maybe subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this content, I would be really grateful. I've just got over 1,000 followers, so, you know, things are on the up. Right there, guys, I'll leave it there and I will catch you in the next one.